Joining me here today at Corvette Funfest 2000 is certainly one of my dearest friends in the Corvette world, Mr. Dave McLellan, the second chief engineer at Corvette. And I know you always say the third because someone perhaps preceded even Zora.
That's correct.
1975. You know, David, I remember where I was, what I was doing the day that you received that promotion to chief engineer at Corvette.
Wow.
But prior to that, your first job at GM, take me there.
Well, I started at the Noise and Vibration Lab at the Proving Grounds and worked on cars and trucks and subsystems of same, and also got to work on military vehicles. So I learned how to drive tanks in that early part of my career. And then I went over to the test department at the Proving Grounds and was the first supervisor of Black Lake, which was the handling pad facility. And that's where I ran into guys like Frank Winchell, who was doing all kinds of vehicle handling test development, and even doing drunk driver testing at the Proving Grounds.
That early?
So early in my career, I bought on the Proving Grounds nickel all kinds of liquor and put a whole group of GM executives through a driving program while they were getting drunk, and photographed it.
Paid to do it at the same time. Pretty good,
yep,
Dave.
Yeah, couldn't believe it.
You know, 1975, Zora Arkus Duntov, and then along comes this young, handsome man.
Thank you.
Chief engineer.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, you know, what's it feel like getting that type of a promotion, knowing the seat that you have to fill, the legend that you have to follow, and at a time when Corvette's performance was perhaps on a downward trend.
Yeah,
you had a lot of challenges.
Yes, it was challenging, and in many ways it was daunting. I just come back from GM having put me through a year's training at MIT as a Sloan Fellow, and I was ready for the job, and Zora was ready to retire. He had had health problems, and a wonderful guy. I love him dearly, but he was ready, and the car had run its course under Zora, so it was time to get in there and really refresh things. It took us a while to get our act together and to get everything turned around.
You know, this morning at breakfast, David, we were talking about one of my favorite Corvettes. Certainly it happened under your watch, the 78 pace car.
Yeah, that was a fun program. It surprised us all. And I can remember just before the race that year, the Indianapolis 500, we were driving a group of cars back from St. Louis, including some pace cars. And the car was already, of course, in production. And we were going through this little Indiana town, and there was a Chevrolet dealership that was a single door to walk through and a garage door. The garage door was open, total blackness inside. That was all there was to this Chevrolet dealership. And there was a pace car sitting there. Amazing. I will never forget that picture.
Nashville, Indiana?
I don't know. I don't remember what town it was. It was a very small town, and they had this teeny tiny one garage door Chevrolet dealer.
Okay, so going through the pace car, let's jump forward to what I think is the Dave McLellan car, the C4 car. That car, by the time it got there, it was your car.
Yes, and it was my team's car, because there were lots of guys within the Corvette team that made major contributions to making that car successful. And it ultimately led, through the racing programs and the development over the next several years, it led to the ZR1 program, which really capped the C4 with a 400 horsepower car that was a complete sports performance, even racing car by that point.
You know, David, you and I met over the years, but that was certainly around something that's near and dear to both of us. That's the Escort Endurance Series.
Yes.
And the Corvette Challenge.
Right.
Next year at Corvette Funfest, we're going to be honoring not only you, but those cars. Some thoughts on Corvette Racing in 1985, 1986?
The 84 car was as good as we knew how to make it, short of its being developed as a race car. And the opportunity that we took on, and Doug Robinson made a major contribution to that as my development manager. We worked with some of the teams who were starting to race the Corvette in the endurance series, and did pro forma races out to the full 24-hour. And from that, we learned a huge amount about the car and learned how to make it reliable in a 24-hour race. Shared that with the competitors so that that everybody had that same base that was running Corvettes. And as a result of that, we were unbeatable for those 3 years in 3, 6, 12, and 24-hour races, which is 24-hour race is a nasty event because everything has to work, and it has to work for 24 hours at the limit of performance.
I've always been told that a 24-hour race probably puts the stress on a car that 100,000 miles would do it over a period of a lifetime.
Probably does, yep. Yeah, and as we learned from that, we plowed that learning back into the production car. So the car itself that you'd buy in the showroom was fully capable by that point, by 87, of running that 24-hour endurance. And that was the car then that we put into the Challenge Series.
After the Escort Endurance Series, then we hit the Corvette Challenge,
right.
Which to me, that was one of Corvette's many high water marks.
Thank you, yeah. Yeah, we literally got kicked out of the Endurance Series because we were winning all the time. And so we had to find some new venue that would showcase the Corvette, and that's where the challenge came from.
Well, we went from Corvette Challenge to the World Challenge, the R9G cars,
right.
And from that on the build-up process was, I think, led into, I think, the thing that, as Dave McLellan goes down in history, the history of Dave's time at General Motors and Corvette culminated with the ZR1 LT5 project.
Yes.
Your comments?
That was a great program. We learned so much from that, and the history behind that program is extraordinary. Working with Lotus and with Mercury Marine, and they both put their best talent and energies into that. So in subtle ways, the engine that went into the C5 and now the C6, these engines that are now 500 horsepower, 7 liters, are the beneficiaries of that learning experience that guys like Roy Midgley and Jim Miniker went through as they, and Gib Hofstetter, as they evolved the LT5 motor and then brought that learning back into the Chevrolet small block.
2 last questions. I'm going to ask you your thoughts at Corvette Funfest, and I'm also going to make you commit to our customers on this tape because we're going to put this on our website.
Okay.
And I'll start with the last question first, and that is at Corvette Funfest 2008. That's next year.
Yep.
We're going to do a tribute to Corvette Racing and that C4 generation. And I'm going to ask you in front of our customers, or your response is going to have to be seen by all of our customers. Would you be my guest of honor to talk about and celebrate that C4 Corvette?
I would be pleased and honored to do that.
Let's seal the deal right here.
You got a deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really, the last question. You have a Corvette that I want for my collection.
Okay.
What are we going to do about that?
Well, we'll figure it out. Yeah, we'll figure it out.
Don't you think that green LT5 ZR1 ought to be in my garage?
I'd love to see it there. I really would.
Okay, well, Dave McLellan, you know what? You have always been such a supporter of Mid-America and Corvette Funfest. You're here every year. That smile. You know, you are the most gracious person that I know. When your customers come up, you always take so much time to speak to them. And that is something at Mid-America that we see as a value, how we treat our customers. And you're just the epitome of a gentleman when our customers come up and ask you for an autograph.
Thank you. And I appreciate you, Mike, for that, for teaching us how to do that.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks for joining me, David.